right, we are off and tracking our mileage. So hello everyone and welcome to Manassas National Battlefield Park. Obviously out here in Manassas, Virginia. Officer Thick and I got him up early this morning. None too happy, but he was able to join me on this hike today. Not exactly sure how far we're hiking, but we decided to come on up here to Northern Virginia and take in the fall colors. It's a little bit going on here, but not a whole lot, but still exciting to be out here nevertheless. And truth be told, I try to encourage Officer Thick to come up with me, because the last time I came up here I was hiking in the woods over in that direction and I kind of found myself alone. All the tourists like to hang around up here and whatnot, and it started getting real spooky back there. A lot of soldiers died down here. And you guys all know that I don't care to be by myself alone on a Civil War trail, because I believe they're quite haunted. So we are hiking along the first Manassas Trail. And like I said, this was spur of the moment. I haven't looked up the mileage. We could be on a 7-mile journey and not know. But a little bit about the battle, and maybe we'll learn Officer Thick something. So it's July 21st, 1861. We are only a few months removed from the attack on Fort Sumter in South Carolina. Lincoln is pressed to bring the Confederates back into the Union. He calls up 75,000 troops to help put down the rebellion. And that contract only lasts for 90 days. So people at this time are really convinced that this war is just going to take one battle to settle everything. And of course, as we know, it took 4 years. But in Lincoln's eyes, he wanted Richmond yesterday. Okay, so the South had been in rebellion for about, what is that, 3 months? 2 months. No, 3 months. 3 months. He had already asked Robert E. Lee to command his army. Robert E. Lee, of course, being for Virginia, he did not want to fight against his fellow statesmen, and so he declined leadership of the Union Army. Instead, the Union gets General Winfield Scott and Irvin McDowell, and the army is green at this point, and McDowell really doesn't want to send out his new green army. Of course, there were army regulars, but they did not want to put them into play, thinking that this wasn't going to last that long. However, McDowell still didn't want to send in his green troops in order to battle the Confederates. At the same time, the Confederates are green as well. So what Lincoln ends up doing is telling General McDowell that, hey, the Confederates are just as green as you are, so let's do this. Mind you have to keep in mind that that 90-day contract was expiring very soon. People signed up back in April. Here it is in July, and Lincoln wants something done right now. Mind you, at the time, everyone is so fresh. You have a lot of West Point graduates. You have a lot of folks from the Virginia Military Institute, and you have folks, cadets from the Citadel as well. The thing about West Point and folks who were Confederates who were in the Union Army, they were still in their Union uniforms. So there was a lot of confusion on the battlefield on who was friendly and who was not. And it just didn't end well for the Union, along with some other things that happened on the battlefield, and it just didn't work out for them. There was just lots of disorganization on both sides. There was a lot of piecemealing of troops. So like one regiment would come up and really not have a flank. They were their flank. And then another one would come up maybe like an hour or two later. At one point, General James Ricketts of the Union Army he brings up his artillery to the front, and he has no infantry. And so his artillery gets wiped out, he gets wounded and captured, but he's later exchanged, which is something that doesn't happen for a lot of troops. And so once the Confederates rally around Stonewall Jackson, they absolutely rout the Union Army in the First Battle of Bull Run, or First Battle of Manassas. And it causes complete chaos. There's absolute panic. You know, even spectators from the surrounding areas, they come and they try to watch the battle. And the battle is happening over here towards my left. And that stone bridge that we're walking to now, that was the retreat path. And so everybody, spectators, Union troops, they were trying to make their way over there. And of course, the bridge being a bottleneck, it just wasn't good. Yeah, but anyway, McDowell and Scott were blamed for the loss. General George McClellan, who we all know was commander-in-chief of the Union Army for a decent majority of the war, until Abraham Lincoln found Ulysses S. Grant. We all know that Abraham Lincoln had a lot of trouble with Union leadership in finding a man who was aggressive enough to bring the Confederates back into the country. And he ultimately found that man in Ulysses S. Grant. And I want to say that happened in 1864, middle of 1864. But you know, it took 3 years for that to happen. Of course, the Union isn't going to take this loss sitting down. In 1862, George McClellan gathers up another set of troops, about 77,000 troops. And this time, General Robert E. Lee is here, and with about 50,000 Confederates, and they fight the Second Battle of Manassas, or the Second Battle of Bull Run. At this time, troops are under a 3-year contract, no longer 90 days. It's obvious at this time in 1862 that this is a full-blown war. We don't know when it's going to end. And Robert E. Lee absolutely hands the Union its ass, plain and simple. But anyway, back to you guys. How are you all doing? I hope you are taking care of yourselves and getting outdoors. Shout out to Robert Winter. I'm hoping I'm remembering that name correctly. He's always commenting about how I'm so positive in my videos, and it's infectious, and I appreciate the feedback, because sometimes I think I'm just the most boring YouTuber out there on the internet. But it's good to have feedback like that. It's very encouraging and keeps me posting videos, you know, outside of letting my parents know how wonderful the Commonwealth is. The folks of Northern Virginia aren't... Oh, and I was just about to talk trash about the folks of Northern Virginia. We have a good citizen here letting us cross. Thank you! Well, that was nice. Feel good. I almost feel bad talking trash about folks in Northern Virginia, but not too badly, because mind you, there are still some rude drivers down here. Speaking of new subscribers, you know, I've just been getting one every couple days or so. I don't know where you're coming from, but as always, thank you for joining me. Also, the Dutch Gap Conservation Area video kind of took off. I'm always expecting maybe 10 or so views, and somehow, some way, it got 50 views in a couple of days. So I don't know where it got shared at, but shout out to whoever shared it. Hope you enjoyed it. I actually went back and I looked up some articles about the Dutch Gap Nature Preserve, not Dutch Gap Nature Preserve, but the Dutch Gap Conservation Area. And the James River Association has some very alarming research about what's going on with there with the coal ash fields and ponds that are out there. All right, so while Officer Thick is taking out a gem in Pokemon, we're gonna steer off into the water. We may have to go a little bit earlier than what I thought. He's not used to being on the trails, and so his legs are cramping, and we should probably find him someplace to sit for a bit and rest his legs. It's so wonderful. Now, people have their dogs so well trained up here in Nova. Meanwhile, Hampton Roads, people just let their dogs run wild and loose, and they don't know how to act. It's quite refreshing. Yeah, it's refreshing that people one, respect leash laws. A lot more dogs have been on their leash than dogs that haven't been, and the dogs that have been off leash have been very well trained. The people of Hampton Roads don't give a damn about that, apparently. All right, so we're taking our time up the hill. Officer Thick's not used to all of this. I'm doing all right, however. You know, hiking out near Richmond and you know, going to the gym just a little bit have been beneficial to me. You got your bearings yet? You're oriented? You look familiar? Do you think I'm still leading you astray?
I'm just following you.
Oh, okay.
If we die, we die.
I don't think we're gonna die, but okay, babe. So proud of Officer Thick for making it out. We're almost at 4 miles. We were gonna walk the 5.5-mile trail, but some plans changed, and we're gonna meet up with a couple of his friends, his best friends, for late lunch, early dinner. But I'm still gonna make my way up to the statue. But I'm proud of him for getting through this. It's quite the hike. But we should do this more often. Crickets, y'all, it's crickets. So we made it to the statue of Stonewall Jackson, Thomas Stonewall Jackson. And I always ask the question, if this man isn't shot by his own troops at Chancellorsville, which is probably like an hour away from here, near Fredericksburg, does the South win the Civil War? I don't know. It's a good question to ask in theory, but it's something that we don't have to answer now or ever. But yeah, just tell me what you guys think in the comments. I'm getting ready to head on to the car, meet up with Officer Thick, and we go meet his friends for lunch. I hope you enjoyed this hike at Manassas National Battlefield here in Manassas, Virginia. And I will catch up with you all later. Hope you're taking care of yourselves. Peace.